So I grew up with music as my religion. My first big stadium concert was Paul McCartney and the Wings, and my dad carried me right up to the first row. I was right there at the stage, and I remember it's probably 7, I don't know, somewhere around there. And I just remember the wind. There was this wind blowing, and they were playing "Live and Let Die." It was just like my first big stadium concert. I'd been to other concerts before then, but so music was just such a huge part of my life. And the Beatles were a huge part of my life from the time I was just a little baby. And I start with that because I want to quote one of them. I want to quote John Lennon. And it's so interesting. Our heroes, and then becoming older and wiser and experiencing our heroes in different ways, right? Not the nicest guy. Not really, not actually the nicest guy. In some pretty important ways, actually. And yet he is just woven into my heart, as is his art. Grew up being told, that he had been killed just before I was born. It was just after. Either way, it was like part of my origin story was that John Lennon was killed. In any case, that story is nothing to do with what I'm going to be talking about or leading, but that's where we started. So he says, life is what happens when you're making other plans. And isn't that the truth? So I had a plan today of what I wanted to do with our group. And then, life happens. Everything from what's happening inside of my system to what's happening on the sort of group field level, to what I'm sort of picking up from individuals. And so it changes. And that's pretty much how I roll when it comes to my teaching. Even like a whole retreat, it can change and change and change again based on kind of what life is doing, what reality is doing, what this activity is doing. But interestingly, it's such a perfect topic, and it's the one I want to explore anyway. So it worked out well. This idea of life is what happens when you're making other plans. So take a moment, if you'd like, to consider your plans. Even right now, right here, like your plans for this meditation. What kind of meditation it's going to be, how you're going to feel during it, how you're going to feel after. Your plans for whether your body's going to hurt or not, how much it's going to hurt. Your plans for if you're going to stay still for the meditation or if you're going to allow yourself to move. Your plans if you're going to lie down or sit up or stand. Your plans of staying on for the full meditation versus your plans for signing off because you've had enough of this for today. Just checking in with your plans and then maybe extending out, plans for the week, but also just plans for your life, your ideas of what it's going to be, what it should be, what it shouldn't be, what it should look like, what it shouldn't look like, sort of person you're going to be, what's going to be most important to you, your preferences, and how you plan around your preferences, construct identity around your preferences. just taking a moment to just have a bit of an inquiry around this, just looking into these different threads of plans. And if you're already intimately familiar with the concept of life is what happens when you're making other plans, you might find yourself, like me, wanting to laugh a bit about all these plans. Might even strike you as adorable. And then we don't have to look back too far to look at this in a really kind of realistic way. Like, look at the last couple of years. Look at just before the Seen in Love group started, look at February 2020, January 2020, December 2019. All those plans. All those plans. And life happened. This wild nature that is life, that is reality, happened. And that's a really big, obvious example of, making the plans and then life happening. So perhaps take a moment and just consider that. And, it might be that some of these plans are a bit too destabilizing or triggering to look at. So please be safe with yourself, knowing you are your own best teacher and guide, and you've got to decide what's in alignment for you. But perhaps considering some of the plans that were supposed to unfold over 2020, over 2021, over 2022. And just take in the sort of truth of that, right? This sort of factual experience of life happening, even though you had other plans. And of course, you can drop back further. This is the obvious period of time, but it's not to say that none of our plans come to pass. But even when they do they come to pass exactly the way in which we perceived them, thought they should be? Every once in a while, maybe. Often not. So noticing what that's like at the body level, tuning into your physical experience of this exploration we've been in, this sort of mental exploration we've been in. Noticing what it feels like to take this in. Is the body tensing against this? Is the body, yeah, around this? Is there even like anger coming up or annoyance, curiosity? And what are those sensations? What does it feel like physically? Is there pressure? Is there warmth? Is there expansion? Is there contraction? Is there tingle? Is there a certain area of the body that's really lit up, really experiencing sensation? Other areas that maybe aren't so much. Now I'm going to make a suggestion, and there might be a lot of resistance to it, and you don't have to take the suggestion. I'm going to give you some context as well. So the suggestion is that just for now, just for this period of time that we're practicing, that you completely let go of your plans. Just imagine that you could let go of all your plans. You could use some visualization for this. You could imagine like you've got your plans in a backpack and taking it off your shoulders, down your arms, and you're just going to put that backpack to the side. Or maybe your plans are a kind of color, energy, color in your body, and you're just going to let it flow out the top of your head, flow your fingers and your toes. Or maybe there's this like operating system of plans and you're just going to wipe it clean. No backup. Now, resistance would come in around like, if I don't have plans, then how am I going to, have the life I want? How am I going to get what I want? How am I going to keep from losing what I have? How am I going to accomplish and be part of, the world in a way that feels successful? How am I going to, find that perfect partner? And how am I going to, function? Possibly all of that becomes easier with less solidification around your plan. Maybe. Also, having intention, being clear on what's of a value to you, what has meaning to you, what purpose is for you, and how you want to feel, not what you want to have or do, but how you want to feel. And this is important and helpful, I think, in living in this world, this dimension. That's really different from being tightly wound, grasping onto plans, onto how it should be or should not be. That is actually a recipe for suffering. So with that context, perhaps even if there's some resistance, consider, can I just for the next 30 seconds completely give up my plans? What does that feel like at the body level? Noticing the sensation, the sensory experience in your body of letting go in whatever amount of your plans. Is there possibly a whisper or a cacophony of relief that comes with that? Is there some sense of relief that comes with just I don't need to hold all this anymore? Not right now, in this moment. Maybe I'll pick it back up. But in this moment, I get to just drop the plans and all of the reasons for the plans and all of the history and all of the conditioning and all of the trauma and all of the wiring of your brain that creates the plan that you think is right or wrong. Like to let go of all that self. Is there some relief in being relieved of the bondage of self? What's that like? What does it feel like? Maybe you'd like to join me in imagining a wide open space. Could be wide open as far as you can see field. It could be that empty white space in the matrix. Could be an endless ocean. Could be deep space. Wide open, endless. Field of possibility. Field of limitless potential. Multidimensional field. Where your plans are just a little blip here, a little blip there, part of this expanse, but not something narrowed in on, attached to, grasping onto, identified with. It's one of the waves, one of the blades of grass. What's it like to allow yourself to exist in this field of possibility? As part of this field of possibility, not separate from this field of possibility. Free from conditioning. What's that like at the body level? What does it feel like to be that free? And if the mind is saying, I'm not free, I keep thinking about this job I have next week, it's really stressful. Well, what if those thoughts, those emotions are also a wave, are also blades of grass, are also just blips of possibility and endless possibility? What if that's not all that you are? Not just these thoughts, not just these emotions. Is it possible to just welcome those thoughts and emotions in that case? They're just here doing their thing. Changing, changing, changing. How on the beautiful human level, that sweet sincerity, that desire to move towards what feels good and away from what doesn't. On that sweet, sweet human level, what does this field of possibility mean? Could it mean that that idea you have of how your career should look is just an idea, and that there are so many other possibilities that could unfold that are beyond your wildest dreams? Is it possible that healing you've been working on isn't quite as challenging as your plans made it out to be? Is it possible that the ideas you have about what a romantic relationship should look like, or what your partner should be like, is it possible that if those plans are released, there's a whole world that opens up to you? Is it possible that when the plans for what any given meditation is supposed to be softens, falls away, that there's opportunity for spontaneous insight, deep intimacy, magic? If in this field of endless possibility, your plans for what will make you happy fall away, and you find yourself in indescribable joy as a result, because you're no longer missing all of the potential and possibility that's available to you in every single breath, in every single heartbreak, in every single new experience. Is there joy that is independent of conditions, that might be available to you when you release those plans into the field of infinite possibility? It's all included, whatever it is in this moment. There's enough room for all of it, and then some. Taking your time, allowing for easy, slow transition, maybe to open eyes if they're closed. Maybe just taking a look around. What's it like? What's it like now? Thank you so much for practicing with me.